Andrew. There's two buffalo here, folks. They're just lying down ruminating, and I want to show you because there's another one just here, Andrew. Maybe we can get a better shot of him. There we go. Is that okay, mate? Now, these two are sitting down doing something called ruminating, and that means that they're redigesting or chewing something called a cud. They've got a several-chambered stomach. I think we've talked about it in the tent several times when we've looked at dung and poop, which is always very interesting to see how an animal, or efficient an animal's feeding system is, or digestive system. And you can see just how he's chewing that. Now what he's done is he's swallowed some food, and it goes into the first chamber of his stomach called the rumen, and then he's regurgitated it up and is chewing it over again, and it breaks down the plant matter, or the grass that he's eaten, very, very finely, and allows them to digest it even better. So these animals fall into a group called ruminants, which is giraffes, what we were just talking about, buffalo, or the antelope, and they're very efficient, very successful group of animals. And where they are sitting right now is one of the reasons why they're classified as a very, very dangerous animal to walk upon, because you can see they're lying down in these thickets, and they can lie down, and I've been in some parts of Zimbabwe where very long elephant grass, and they'll sort of lie down in the cool doing exactly what they're doing now, and they don't see you and you don't see them, and you walk onto them, and that's when it can be a little bit tricky. You've just got to be a faster runner than your cameraman. Oh, sorry, Andrew. Sorry, I didn't mean that really rudely. Got another question. Paul, you've got a very interesting question about taste buds on their tongue. I can't say that I can answer this with great authority, but I do know that they definitely prefer things. I would imagine the taste buds on an animal's tongue would differ in different species, but they definitely have more palatable plants that they prefer. Elephant are a classic example of that. They will browse and graze, and they'll take a bit of grass, they'll take a bit of foliage from a particular type of tree, and then go for some bark. So they definitely do have a preference, and I would imagine that comes down to their taste buds and their needs. So I'm probably going to have to look that up for you a little bit, Paul, but that's what I would imagine they do, because animals, they don't just go and eat anything that you put in front of them, that's for sure. They go along different vegetation lines, and you see them savouring or favouring particular species. A lot of plants in the bush have something in the leaves called tannins. It's a very astringent tasting defence mechanism that makes some of the things very unpalatable. And a lot of the trees and shrubs that we have here will produce tannins, even increase their tannin level if our plants browse upon them if animals browse upon them too much. So they'll increase their tannin as a defense mechanism. So great question, Paul, and I'll look that up a little bit further. I've got one more drive tomorrow morning, and if you're watching, please try and tweet in again, and I'll come back to you on that, matey. Thanks for your question, buddy. Right, so we've come up onto our Impala Plains, and here's me banging on about seeing baby Impala, and there's none here. So we're going to carry along down to Sandy Patch, and sorry guys, I just saw some tracks, nice tracks here. Whilst we're looking at these tracks, there's a couple of tracks just here. We'll figure out who they are and what they are. Let's cross over to Brent for an update, and we'll come back to you. Thanks for being here. Great to see you.
So, welcome back. We're checking the southern boundary really carefully. For those of you new, you might notice my head hanging off the side of the car, and that's so I can see if any fresh footprints footprints. And normally we're looking for predator footprints: lion, leopard, wild dog, cheetah. So reading the morning paper, figuring who's in, who's out, who's hot, who's not. At the moment, not so hot. I had a sneaking suspicion that those lions were further south of our boundary, and it seems like they are, but we still got a section to check. And the wonderful thing about the bush is it can change every minute. You never know. A leopard might walk in. Wild dogs might come charging from somewhere. I feel we due a bit of wild dog luck. We haven't seen the dogs for a few days. Over a while, I think. Really big sort of thoroughfare zone here between the two properties. Of course, animals don't adhere to our man-made boundaries, and that's the wonderful thing about being part of this incredibly massive open area that's dedicated to wildlife. Always very important to check the junctions of roads. Animals often use roads as highways, and a lot of the roads are built on original big, large elephant paths. While we're in search of predators, we've got a wonderful question from Anthony, who asks, will a predator ever kill something and not eat it? Anthony, it does happen. It's very rare, and strange enough, particularly with two species. Very strangely, lions often kill a water duck and not eat it. A lot of people think it's because of the really oily glands in their neck that give them that sort of waxy overcoating, that waterproofing. And bush pig. Very, very strange. And I've found bush pig carcasses that have been killed by lion and nothing's fed on them. I also think it depends how hungry. I think if they are hungry enough, they will always feed on it. But it is unusual for an animal to kill something and not to feed on it. Chatting about hunting, we've got a question from Zephyr, bro, who I presume is a surfer. If so, I hope you find some waves today. Zephyr, bro, would like to know, in desperate times, would lions ever go for something as big as a hippo or other large prey? Most definitely, and there's also prides of lions that specialize in large animals. There's famous prides of lions up in northern Botswana that specialize in elephants, and that's very unusual behavior. And I believe it's a lot to do with the amount of elephants in that area, and went through a stage when the Savuti marsh was dry and it's got water in it again. So a lot of your migratory species like zebra and wildebeest that have lots of local migrations in and out of an area moved and didn't come back, so they were stuck with this huge amount of elephants and basically slowly learned how to hunt those elephants. But in this area, hippo, buffalo, giraffe are often hunted, specifically by the male coalitions, and the females hunt buffalo regularly. But a hippo is a much bigger challenge. And it is spectacular to see when it does happen. So we've got a bit of a spot on the lens we're going to try and take carefully now. While we do that, I'm going to idle up to the most numerous antelope in Africa south of the Sahara. There we go. Nice little male impala. It's always good to just stop and listen every now and then, see if we hear any alarm calls or vocalizations. But let's move along. We are causing a traffic jam at the moment. This boundary road is one of the main access roads in and out of the reserve. Hello, boys. And while we're meandering, looking for tracks of lions and leopards, there's a couple of characters that we see regularly here, and one of them is the Nkuhuma Pride, and they've got that wonderful young male that has been nicknamed Junior. And Sarah, who's in Ohio, would like to know, have there been any updates about them? Sarah, they haven't. They seem to have almost disappeared off the face of the earth. They were the last tracks I had were across the entire Thuza, and we haven't seen anything since. So fascinating to find out where they are and where they might pop out. With the Birmingham boys spending a bit more time in this general area, it's likely that they are going to try to stay on the peripheries and keep away from those marauding males while they still have a young male with them. Junior has made some forays or been pushed far away from his pride before. I know he was seen by himself in the Sand River, which is a long way from here. But he is at that age where he should be coming nomadic away from the pride. So we've been trying to find tracks, and Angela's wondering, how do we track when we're driving fast? With great difficulty, Angela, unfortunately. And your eyes get trained like any other muscle. So your eyes pick up on stuff that you wouldn't normally see. So even when you come to the bush for the first time, you'll notice people sit on the back of the vehicle. They can't even see the impala that's blatantly obvious to others. But by the end of that week that they're in the bush, they start spotting stuff, and your eyes sort of learn to pick up things that look a little bit different. And the same thing happens with tracks. So if you want to track carefully, though, you don't really want to go too fast. I mean, this is a good speed. We're not moving too quickly. Any little mark that I can see sort of small enough to be a lion or leopard track, I can just sort of lean my head over, double check. The majority of the tracks we see are hyena because they wander far and wide through this area in search of food. This is an interesting question, and I'm actually going to play a little game with you guys. I'm going to throw it back at you. Ricky would like to know how many different types of animals are in the park. So let's see if you guys can come up with a list of how many different species of animals. Don't put all the names, just give us a number, and we'll see if your number coincides with mine. And let's leave out the little ones like the mice and geckos and things. So let's keep it to mammals for now. So how many different species of mammals do we have in the Sabi Sands? And you can send your answers through to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. We're about to enter Arathusa. sure those lions are just in here somewhere, but unfortunately out of our traverse area. It's one of those strange mornings, you're not sure whether the cloud's going to sit in or it's going to clear out. There's gaps, there's a bit of light coming through, but it does seem to be moving quite quickly in from the east. While we continue our search for big cats and everything else, let's go see what HT's up to.
So we've just come along Sandy Patch Road, which is one of my favourite roads to see young impala. There was a couple, they scooted off with their mums. They're not quite confident enough to bring them out, only sort of a day old. A little bit of a roadblock. Elephants have immense strength. This is only a small tree for an elephant to push down, but an elephant has pushed this down, and if Andrew goes up to the top of the tree, you can see what they were after. They were after the tender young shoots, the more tender leaves and so on, and they've just eaten all of those off and they've just left the rest. So some people find that destructive, but you know what? Elephants play a major role in opening up areas as well. They will open up areas and another species will move into that niche, whether it was a very wooded area, they'll end up opening up an area, making it into more of a little open woodland or maybe a savanna type area. So it all fits in, there's no doubt about it. It just makes for coming around the corner a little bit tricky when you have that across the road, and I don't think I can pull that out, so I'll just mention that. We'll get a tractor up here to sort that out. But I'm on my way to the hyena den, just to see if those guys are out. We had such incredible times there with that cub and that beautiful mother, and I like to try, and I'm just watching the aerial there, I like to try, as everyone does in our team, fly the flag for hyena, because they're such incredible animals and beautiful creatures, and to try and debunk or get rid of this crazy thought of these scavenging, skulking, evil creatures that a lot of people used to think they were. They're fascinating creatures and incredibly important. Do you know what? A lot of people don't realise it, but they are second down the food chain from lion. So it sort of goes lion, hyena, leopard, and then, wild dog are up there as well, but leopard and cheetah in the cats, and then wild dog fit in there as well, sort of around the leopard area. But depends on the numbers with wild dog and hyena. It's just a numbers game. If there's more hyena than there are wild dog, the hyena will overpower the wild dog. But the other way around, you can see hyena at speed trying to escape. It's a very interesting area. I've had some beautiful wild dog interaction here over the past year. Wow, we got our first Operation Wild Child. Hayden Turner reporting for duty. Gord, welcome aboard, buddy. You're watching with your mum, which is brilliant. Hats off to you, mum, for watching Safari Live. And your question is, what's the biggest tortoise I've ever seen? Well, you know what? The biggest tortoise I've ever seen was a leopard tortoise, and he was about this big. Okay, and Gord, if I had a shell here I could show you, but there's a little tiny ridge in each of the, they're called scoots, there's a little pattern or a little sort of shape on an elephant's shell, and you can tell how old a tortoise is roughly, just like you can tell. Mum might be able to show you a picture where you see if a tree has fallen down or a tree's been cut down for timber, there's little rings inside that tree, and it tells you how old the tree is. It's a little bit like that with a tortoise. We don't have to cut the tortoise, of course, we just look at the little rings on the outside outside of its shell on each little section. But Gord, that's the biggest tortoise I've seen here, leopard tortoise. But up in Zanzibar and even in the Galapagos Islands off the coast of Africa, I've seen tortoises. There's a tortoise called an Aldabran tortoise and another one called a Galapagos tortoise. And Gord, I've seen like this round. I'm talking, well, let me show you on the camera. This round, watch my hands, bigger, 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 bigger. Ones that have been as big as the bonnet on the car, maybe from here to the other end. Massive. The oldest creatures in the world. They really are. They get up to ages over 100 years old. Very, very beautiful, big, big, tall creatures, but they're land tortoises as well, like the ones we get here. Fantastic question, God. Great to have you on board, buddy. Operation Wild Child. We have deployed our first infantryman. Right, let's get going up here and see if we can find those beautiful hyena. Very pleasant temperature. Corbin, welcome aboard, buddy. Great to have your question. And you're only 3 years old. Oh my goodness, you might be my youngest wild child yet. That is so cool to have you on board, buddy. Corbin, you're asking, is a buffalo, the ones that we saw back there, like a cow? And the answer to that is absolutely. It's a wild cow. Just like in the North America, I'm not sure where you are, Corbin, but in North America there's a bison, or sometimes referred to as a buffalo as well. In Asia, on the other side of the world, there's another buffalo. There's a lot of wild cattle in the world, but that's what a buffalo is. It's in the same family. So a domestic cow is like the cousin of a buffalo, and they're pretty much exactly the same, just look a little bit different on the outside, Corbin. Great question, mate. Thanks for being on board with us, buddy. Is it this road? No, it's the next one, isn't it? Sometimes I get mixed up with my roads around here because I spend a bit of time in the tent these days doing our safari tent, and I just have to get my bearings. This is the road I want. We had a lovely question yesterday from Alyssa, who was 15. And Alyssa, you've stuck in my mind, buddy, so much with your question. You really, really touched me with that question. It was about whether girls can do the job that we're doing here. And I said to you, I gave you my answer yesterday, Alyssa. If you're watching, love to hear from you again, matey. But my answer was absolutely 100% yes. And if there's any girls watching at any age, and you think that you want to do something like this, you can do this without a problem. This is a job for men and women. And if you want a role model, I'll tell you who the role model is. It's Jamie, one of our guides here. And if you get a chance to go, I've got to drive with Jamie tomorrow morning, and she is absolutely unbelievable. So if you want a role model, girls, and you want to aspire to do this, talk to Jamie on Twitter or on email. Remember, it's hashtag Safari Live or questions@wildearth.tv. And if you haven't got your own Twitter account or your own email, and you're in an age where you might have to ask mum or dad to do that for you, and you can definitely ask Jamie questions tomorrow. She would love it, because we are really going out with Operation Wild Child tomorrow as well. So remember, girls, you've got to get out there and do this as well. This is such a great job, and I'd love to see more of you, that's for sure. She's incredible, Jamie. So fantastic to listen to, and so much knowledge. She loves hyena as well. So I'm sure tomorrow morning I'm going to let her come to the hyena thing, because she loves them. Just make sure I don't miss the turn to the hyena again here. I think it's just around the corner here. And it's been such a fantastic week, folks, on Big Cat Week, and doing the morning drives and being in the tent in the afternoons and just watching. I get to watch the whole show, and it's the first time in the last year that I've actually sat down and watched the whole show with all the different feeds and what's going on. It's been a great privilege. I love being in the vehicle, but the tent also is a really interesting place to be, to see the program exactly as you would be seeing it. And experiencing it firsthand like it is on the TV or on your computer, and it is so exciting. So exciting. We've had a great week. Matthew, you've got a fantastic question I'm going to come to. I'm just going to tell you what's in the picture at the moment before he walks off. And Matthew, I promise you, you're age 9. I'm coming to your question, buddy, any second. Just want to stop here to give you a look at one of the most beautiful antelope, I think, in the African bush. The regal, very stylish, nearly. I know that's not really a word that you apply to animals, but they are. They've got style, these guys. Look at that. This is a Kudu bull. How beautiful is that? And those stripes down the side there, individual markings that every single animal has a different stripe pattern down the side. And as you can see, he just disappeared into that vegetation. I can still see him. We're going to go up a little bit closer. Just disappeared into that vegetation. He's the same colour as that vegetation, and that little stripe pattern breaks his body shape up. Beautiful. We'll go and see him just now. Matthew, your question was Tingana last night. It's a very good question. We discussed it ourselves, Matthew, whether Tingana would wait at that burrow for more. Now, Tingana's got a reputation for doing exactly that. He will sit by a burrow. Some people have seen him sit for like nearly 24 hours to wait for, or 12 hours to wait for the morning until the warthogs were pushed to come out. Now, warthogs, Matthew, are what's called a diurnal or a daytime animal, and they go into those burrows at night for safety, and then they come out in the day. That's what was astonishing about Tingana last night, when he went down into that burrow. And your question is, would he go back down if there was more piglets? And the answer to that is absolutely. Peter said that he stayed with him a little bit longer after we closed the show, and he did walk off into the night. So whether there wasn't more down there, or he's just had his fill and was going for something a bit bigger, because a warthog's really just like a little snack for him, and he maybe have gone on to something else. But I think Brent went over to check that out and follow that up. But great question, Matthew. Really good thinking there, buddy. You're thinking about what the animal's going to do next, not just the instance that we're in. You're thinking about the future of the animal and what the behaviour of the animal, and that's the key to success when watching animals, buddy. Super question, big fella. Let's go and see if we can find this beautiful kudu. Gracie, welcome aboard, buddy. I think you are the Gracie that I've talked to, and many of us have talked to her before, and I hope it is, bud. And if it's not, it's great to have you on board too, Gracie. We don't know sometimes, because we get lots of different people, sometimes with beautiful names like Gracie as well. Gracie, your question is, would the mother of the piglet miss her baby? Well, I'm sure she would, maybe a little bit, that's for sure. We've got this kudu just here, but Gracie, what they do is, it's a little bit sad, that's for sure, and it's sometimes hard to watch for us. But do you know what, Gracie? I have to say to you, buddy, the way that the bush works is that everything lives off another thing. You know, it's what's called, and you've probably done this maybe in studying or at school, and it's called, hang on, I can hear it. Can I hear it? I can hear you saying it. It's got links like this. It's called food. That's it. You said it, buddy. Food chain. That's exactly what it is. It's a food chain. And at the top of the food chain are the predators. You know, the lion, the leopard, the hyena, the cat, the wild dog, and lots of other animals. And then it works its way down. So those animals have to live as well. They have babies. The hyena cub as well, its mother has to eat. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to watch, Gracie, and yes, she might be a little bit sort of like sad like we are, but she'll get over that, and she'll have more piglets, and she'll probably be smarter next time. She might dig the burrow a little bit deeper or something like that. But great question, Gracie, and I'm sure she'll be okay, and she might have other piglets down there that survived. But fantastic question, and great to have you on board. Let's go across to Brent. he's got a fantastic little creature that we don't see a lot of, and we'll come back to you when we're at the hyena.
So we've come across a little scrub hare busy grooming himself after a night out on the town, so to speak. And when you look at that, look between his ears, there's some big ticks. And those ticks between his ears, I'm afraid he's not going to be able to get to. Two big ones, those big grey ticks, eventually when they're absolutely, completely stuffed to the brim with blood, they'll just drop off and go lay their eggs. Really nice to see a little guy so relaxed. Quite often they run away. Oh, itchy, itchy. And you see that little white fluffy tail? When in distress, it's popped up as a sort of sign to everyone when it's running that there's danger around. You see how carefully they move through the bush. And he's disappearing a little bit. We're going to try to roll forward a slight bit to get another view of him. Let's have a look. Oh, I've got a good one here. Let's just go forward a slight bit. There we go. You can see him there. So this is the only legomorph we get in this area. Legomorph is a term for the family rabbits and hares. Although they look very similar, they are quite different. Hares are precocial, and what that means, their babies are born as miniature versions of the adults, able to run within minutes of birth. Where rabbits, babies are born in a den called a warren, and they're born blind and hairless and need quite a bit of time in that den before they are able to venture out into the world. So a lot of prey species out in the bush are born precocial, so they can run within minutes of birth to try to escape all the predators. Having a serious grooming session. Now, one of the things that a lot of people find possibly a little bit gross about hares, but it's a very, very unique sort of survival system, is that when they defecate, they will re-eat their dung up to 6 times to get all the nutrients out. So they're not a ruminant. They can bring it up and chew and chew and chew and chew the cud. So they go one step further. They wait until they've done their business, then they eat it again. And that's what gives a hare's dung a very, very light colouring. I will definitely try see if I can find you some hare dung today. And so when you find hare dung, you know it's been eaten multiple times to get all the nutrients. And so the starches and the grasses that it eats are almost all gone. So if you look at an impala dung, which is almost black from the starch, you'll find a hare dung which is sort of completely devoid of that colour. And obviously as a hare, you have to be on your game because everything tries to eat you. From a lion to most of the big predatory birds. Just listening carefully as well. Always good to sit quietly for a bit and see what's out there. Got quite a few woodlands kingfishers calling. And preening using its teeth. So in most traditional African stories, through the majority of cultures, scrub hare is known as the trickster. played tricks on all the big animals, lion, leopard, elephant. That's why he runs so fast. He's played so many tricks that everyone's out to get him. And you can see very big eyes, as quite a lot of nocturnal species have. And those long ears to catch all the sound around him. Seems to be listening to me quite intently at the moment. But no, he's decided I'm not that interesting and I don't pose a threat. So time to carry on grooming. Oh, look at that. He's possibly trying to get to those ticks and they're just too high. Oh, there we go. Is he going to get it? No, too high up on the ear. And so during the day, he's going to move into a spot like there in a thicket, find a little base of a tree and snuggle up. And he'll flatten his ears against his body because you can see that pink might stand out a bit. And he blends perfectly. You can see how his coat would fit in with the surrounding bush. And he'll just keep very, very still for the day as a defense mechanism against predators. And speaking of predators, and one of the things we always listen for out here is alarm calls. And Anthony is wondering, is alarm calls sort of like a universal language in the bush? I think, Anthony, that's a very good way of describing it. It is most definitely. So when the impala starts snorting, he's snorting. All the other animals like kudu and stuff will take heed of it. But I think the best description can be made with a baboon. So speaking of predators, I will tell you the baboon story a little bit later, but we're going to move on and see if we can find any sign of predators, and we're going to leave this little guy, to go find a spot to sleep, and we're going to go to HT, who's with definitely the cutest addition to the Juma family.
Well, 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 look at this. How beautiful. We just came over to the hyena den and we've got our little terrific trio here. Mum, our 6-month-old cub, and our little friend. He's a fantastic little cub and he's becoming really, really adventurous and quite confident. He's come down to the bottom of the hill and all the team were talking about it. Look at this guy, he's come right up to the front of my vehicle here. Can't even see the young 6-year-old now. He's coming right round the side of my vehicle. He's just beyond the front of the vehicle, having a good old sniff. Beautiful condition, this 6-month-old cub. And then our little friend, our little character. He's got a piece of elephant dung there, which just seems to be a bit of a play toy. They've been rolling around in it and using it and playing with it like a ball. It's quite incredible to see. And all of these things, as Jamie was saying yesterday, is so important for the developing their bones and their muscles and their ability to sort of interpret things in their surroundings. You should have seen when we turned up earlier, just our scent. They all put their noses in the air and all had a bit of a big sniff of us, and it's just great to see the interaction. The youngsters have gone on the other side, and this is Mum we're looking at right now. And here comes the 6-month-old, and here's the baby at the top, just to the right of screen there. He is such an adorable little creature. It's such a beautiful place. It's just give you a little bit of background of where we are. It's a termite mound that it would have been excavated more than likely by an aardvark and then potentially used by warthog or a myriad of other creatures. But then hyena will come into a den site like this and excavate a little bit more. The mother will go down and have her cubs in that den, and eventually, you know, it gets to it gets to a point where the dens, they have several dens that they'll use over a period of time, and sometimes they become infested with parasites, but they eventually move on to another den and then come back to different dens. So we've got several dens on the reserve that we know they use. I've got a question from Sharon in Pittsburgh. Sharon, welcome aboard. Great to have you with us. And your question's a really interesting one about whether the mother has to worry about other females taking over the highest rank or the matriarchal rank. It would definitely have to happen at some point, but it's not like lion when, you know, a male lion will come in and dispose of, for want of a better word, or kill all the cubs. There will be it's a very, very intricate system they have, or social system. So, you know, she is the highest ranking female at this point. She has control over this den site. She would be very protective. Males always take the back seat. So if there was other females that were lower ranking to her and supported her, they would protect her as well from most situations that occurred when it came to a dominancy type of situation. But you know what? She would fiercely protect this area, fiercely protect her cubs. And she would have the support of other females in that. So at this point in time, I'd say at the den with the cubs, she has a very, very strong position. When it comes to those cubs growing up, and, you know, maybe splitting off from the clan for one reason or another, whether it's food availability or an altercation with another predator, there may be a takeover of some description. But at the moment, she is top-ranking hyena, and that's the way it will stay around this den site for sure. But great question from you, and thanks very much for being on board with us this morning. These are beautiful. I'm just might take a few images here, folks, because it's such a beautiful, beautiful location. So Nicole, it's a great question you have, and welcome aboard to you as well. When will the baby get his spots? Well, you can see, it's not often, well, you do see it sometimes, but we've got a great display here of an adult female. We've got the 6-month-old, and we've got the youngster. And your question is, when will she develop, the cub develop spots? And Mum's coming right down here. Hello, Mama. Nicole, I'm definitely coming back to your question. I'm just looking at this lovely interaction we're having here with this mother. She is so close, folks. She's only like, if I'd say 5 to 7 feet in front of our vehicle. She's going to lie down right there. Hello, Mama. Oh, she's delightful. Such perfect condition. So close to us. And Nicole, you want to know when the baby's going to get its spots? Well, you can see with her, the brother up just above her there, or brother, sorry, I'm not sure. It may be a female, actually, that cub, I'm not sure. I can't quite see. And it's very difficult, as you know, with the genitalia of hyena. Look at this. She's got the little baby. Now, this is really important for the baby to be able to deal with situations like that, the little cub. It was a little bit of full-on play, but mummy's down here. It just fell down the hole. Bum's down right in front of us. But, you know, that little cub is going to have to deal with situations like that in the times growing up. The older sibling is playing a bit rougher than we've seen normally, but it's very important. And that cub will get start to get its spots, start to see traces of spots, or the beginning of the spot pattern happen in about probably 2 to 3 months. And then as it gets on, as that 6-month-old is there, you start to see the spots are well developed. The hair's a little bit longer on the cubs. And then as the time goes on, it starts to wear off a little bit, and particularly on the sides of the body where the animal lies. It's normally the longest hair is along the spinal column above the neck, and it's so beautiful to see this interaction. But great question. Thank you very much, Nicole. So sort of about 3 months, you'll start to see traces of the spots, and then it'll start to develop towards 6 months, like the cub we've got up there, the older one of the two. Mia, we've got a great question from you, Mia. You're only 6 years old, and I tell you what, that's a fantastic question to be asking, and I'm so glad you're watching. We've got your question is, can the little baby, the little cub fall down the termite mound or the hill that he's on? Absolutely, he can, but you know what, it wouldn't hurt him. He's probably been pushed down there by his brothers and sisters, or his mum accidentally. I've seen him fall down the hole a couple of times, which has been quite amusing to see. But Mia, he'd be absolutely fine. He wouldn't hurt himself. Very, very strong creatures even at this age, and he can withstand a bit of rough and tumble like that. But great question, Mia, and lovely to have you on board this morning on Safari Live, my friend. I can't believe, Mia, I'm talking to you live from Africa. This is really special stuff. Great to have you, buddy. Such a beautiful location where we are, folks. It's hyena paradise. Coda, great to have you on board, Coda, and and you can afford that would be to my friend, but it was a great question. Now, your question this morning with us, Coda, is how many are in the clan, because we only see a few here and there, and we see some animals coming in, and it's a greet. But Coda, I think there's about probably 6. So close. I parked up in this spot this morning just because I thought they were going to stay up on the hill, but now they're so close to us, I actually might have to move back, but I don't want to scare them by starting the engine. But Coda, really great question. I think there's about 5 or 6, and they'll be out at the moment, probably looking for food and spending time at maybe another den or another location. But at the moment there's only 3 here, and the mother's staying here obviously to spend time and suckle her young and grow her little cub there, and then she'll go off and hunt. But yesterday, Coda, we saw a really interesting thing. She gave the special word. He's come right close to us. She gave the special word to send her cub down into the den, and as soon as she did that, the cub disappeared, and off she went off into the bush to hunt or to scavenge and get some food, because she's got to produce milk for her cubs, so she still has to go out there and get food. She definitely spends a lot of time here with them, Coda, and a very, very good mother she is. Great question, Coda. Lovely to have you on board this morning, mate, and again, talking to you live from Africa is one of the best things on the planet for me. So the morning in this cool time will be spent playing and exercising, and every single bit of play that the animals, get my camera out of the way there for you. Every single bit of play is don't know if you can see how close they are to us. This is the furthest, the closest this little guy has come. Hello, my boy. This is absolutely superb. And what's happening here, folks, is something very, very special. Many of you may know this, but it's a word called habituation. And what we're doing here is very important for these animals to know that we're no threat to them. And that way we can get this close, and us and other visitors that come to the reserve can have the same sort of, sorry, my head in the way there, the same sort of interactions as we're having, which stays with you forever. These interactions that we're having with these animals, I never forget this. This is probably my most interactive or special sighting of hyena that I've ever had. Hey, my boy. He is right at the front of the vehicle, and as I said, folks, I can't really start the vehicle and move back because I don't want to alarm them or startle them. And it's another thing with this habituation process that we do with the animals. If they were up on the termite mound there and I started the vehicle, the mother might just lift her head, but she wouldn't be concerned about that whatsoever. Those birds up there that Andrew's just spotted, a fantastic little species, comical little species called a fork-tailed drongo. And they're often around hoofed animals, particularly elephant and buffalo walking and animals that are grazing, because what happens is a lot of the big hoofed animals will disturb insects on the grass or on the trees that they're feeding from, and these birds will capitalize on that, or these birds will be able to utilize that situation and dart off into the breeze and catch species of insect on the wing. It's a great little relationship, so you often see them. They're just resting up there at the moment. Deborah, we've got a question from you about, I am so close, Deborah, I'm sorry, I'm going to take the opportunity to move back when I can, but I don't want to startle them, as I said. And Deborah, your question is whether hyena eat grass or other vegetation like dogs or cats do, maybe to aid a digestive process, or we have this sort of understanding that dogs sometimes eat grass if they're feeling ill or there might be a problem digestively with them. I've never seen hyena eat vegetation. I'm sure they probably do at some point. Animals are incredibly smart, and after millions of years of evolution, and they would be utilizing every part of their environment. And I'm sure there's different species that they do ingest in times when they might have a stomach problem or a stomach upset. But I've never seen it myself, unfortunately. But thanks for your question, and thanks for being on board this morning on Safari Live. I might try and look that up for you, and maybe I can answer that in the safari tent this afternoon. And if you try and send it... Yeah, that was interesting. Did you see that? Isn't that fantastic? So Mum just told the little six-month cub to back off a little bit. He was getting a little bit boisterous with the other younger cub. And there's some lovely behaviour going on right here. Just like we would do in a family with a teenage older or older brother, playing a little bit roughly with a baby. Lovely vocalization. Hello, Mama. Lovely vocalization here. and just behaviour that you can see. She wants to reprimand him, and he's like, it wasn't my fault. I was just playing. She's going to go back up into her regular spot, looking after her youngster. Look at that. So just like us in a family, Mum looks after baby, reprimands the older brother and says, settle down, that was a little bit rough. Oh, it's just magic, isn't it? So he's sulking down the bottom now after getting a little bit of a reprimand from Mum. Folks, while we've got them up there and the babies, the cubs, I keep saying the baby, but I'm the youngster. It's funny you slip into terminology sometimes, but the cub is just on the other side. Just see what happens here. Look how the wide berth that this 6-month-old's taken around Mum. Mum hasn't forgotten. I think she's still going to give him a bit of a taste of. Yeah, she's not happy with him. Very interesting behaviour. So very protective Mum. She might lay there relaxed. She knows the level of play that is acceptable, and she's going to reprimand that 6-month-old cub at some point. Just quickly, before we go across to Brent for an update, I just want to show you, whilst they've gone behind, the foot or the paw print of a hyena. And I think it's really interesting to know. We often drive along the road and we look out the over the edge of the car, and we see this print quite often, which can look a little bit like a leopard print at some points. But the giveaway is this. The claws, these non-retractable claws that we do get an impression from on the road, is the determining factor on whether we follow it as a leopard or we know that it's hyena. And it is because their claws don't retract like a cat, and the cat's claws, only cat that doesn't have a retractable or fully retractable claw is the cheetah. So you'll get a similar sort of paw print or imprint on the ground with those nails. But that's just to show you that we always know it's a hyena by these 4 claws. And this is a brown hyena, just to give you a comparison. But I'll show you some more of these paw prints later on. At the moment, I think the best thing for us to do while the hyenas have gone and we reposition is just to see what Brent's up to. And just for the record, this is my first drive with Brent, I think, I've done in time. I can't quite remember, but it does feel like it. And he's a sensational guy. I tell you what, when you're out with Brent and he's tracking cats, you better have your fitness level up, because he is just notorious for just finding that cat. Great guy. Let's cross over and see what he's up to.
So we're just sitting quietly on the edge of the Marikeni drainage line. We've got this wonderful group of waterbuck in front of us. And we are in the area where Tingana was last seen by Peter on yesterday's sunset safari. And it's always good. We're just listening to that distinct white circle on the bum of the water. It's like they've sat on a freshly painted toilet seat. It's a following mechanism for the youngsters to follow the adults through the bush. You can see a little starling hopping around at their feet. We haven't found any tracks yet. Makes me wonder whether possibly Tingana might have caught something bigger last night in that big block he was in. But Jamie and the trackers are in the area, so they're probably going to walk in there, see what they can find. And there's also a pair of white-backed vultures in the distance. I'll show you now. There we go. Sitting on a dead tree. And vultures and other big birds of prey like sitting on those dead trees because there's lots of room for them to take off. And we're going to keep checking the edge of this river system. So Tingana was last seen just over my shoulder here. I am hoping we can find some tracks, even better than find him. So I asked you how many antelope species were in the greater Kruger or possibly could occur here. And very interesting. We had a few different answers. 230, I think, was one, I'm afraid. I wish there were that many species. A couple around the 30 mark. Unfortunately, no one's correct yet. So I'm not going to give it away just yet. I'm going to give you guys a little more time to figure out how many antelope species occur or could possibly occur in the Sabi Sands and the greater Kruger National Park. Okay, this is a really good chance. If he has come out of this block, he would have walked in the